So our theme this month has been Universal Creative Genius. And I've been talking about the basic ideas of the science of mind. Often when we talk about these kinds of philosophical or metaphysical ideas, we spend too much time talking, too much time theorizing, and too little time practicing these magnificent principles. This is not just something to hear on Sunday and forget until next Saturday night. This can be applied in everyday living. This is one of the reasons we do Standing in the Light. So you hear real life stories of things unfolding as a result of using these principles. And in order for any scientific theory, and in essence, spiritual scientific theories and physical scientific theories are very much in parallel in so many regards. But in order for any of them to be a principle, the theory must go beyond its application. It must be demonstrated. It must be practiced on a regular basis. It must become an integral part of our belief system. This is why I so encourage you, do the work and observe the results and come talk about it. Let the success of that be shared by those who are here, and be shared here where nobody really wants to tinker with your success story. They just want to hear it for their own edification so that they feel comfortable in trying something similar for themselves. So today's topic in this series, the month's theme, Universal Creative Genius, today's title is Trust the Invisible.com/it's easy. And it's on the internet. I've been using the international web, the internet, this past month as a comparison to the basic tenets of metaphysics, because both are recognized, used, and evaluated by the results they produce. From earthly time first measured and codified, humankind has faced the puzzle. Some people call it a mystery. I call it the puzzle of thought, of ideas coming into form. How does that work? What makes that happen? In metaphysics, we call that producing a demonstration or a manifestation, which we talked about a few minutes ago. In fact, our truth is that it's all about demonstration. All of this is just so many empty words until you apply it by the use of affirmations, affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, meditation, your spiritual practice that is focused on the outcome you choose to have occur with regard to any specific idea or challenge that you're working on. So if it's all about demonstration, that means that we have to do more than just announce our desires. There must be a commitment to it so that it flows through us, by means of us, in order to do definite things for us. So we don't just put stuff out there into the ethers, as Holmes called them, out into the energy fields, because we think it sounds nice. Or if somebody heard it, they'd think we were really spiritual. This is work, but this is such loving work on our own behalf, for our own edification. And in the case of prayer partners or prayer practitioners, on behalf of someone else who has requested. It's not our call. That someone else requests that we do this kind of spiritual work on their behalf. What that means is that we do that work based upon what that individual would like to have unfold, not what we think is best for them. Whether they are one of our grown children, our next door neighbor, our grumpy relative, whoever that is, When we do spiritual work for someone else, we do it only if we are in congruence with their intention or their desire. So, a significant part of Ernest Holmes' philosophy, which we call the science of mind, is based on how each of us can learn how to implement the processes by which we benefit. And I'll elaborate shortly, a little later in this talk, on what we mean by processes. First, though, there are some universal laws which require our recognition and our understanding. Taking the time and effort to learn them and the best ways to activate them is paramount to our success in making them work in our behalf. It's like the old saying, I think it was Harry Truman who said this, or he quoted it: if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? Just pretty smart recognition that we must be cognizant of what our intention is in order to recognize it when it shows up. We all know situations, our own or somebody else's, where the universal laws of demonstration appear to be working against them or us or somebody. And it's understandable that those who do not know or comprehend the harmony of the function of the universe could think that. Most of us probably did so as well at some time, yeah? I know I did. And then the light of truth becomes a part of our own search. And the understanding of it and how it works begins to make itself known to us. And how does that happen? We discover page 52. Now, most of you in the room know what I'm talking about when I say page 52. Every January, without exception, I celebrate my anniversary of discovering page 52 in the Science of Mind text. It was in January of 1994, and I had been studying Science of Mind for a matter of months. And this showed up in January as a part of the reviewing of the first 4 books of the textbook. The thing itself, how it works, what it does, and how to use it. And in the How to Use It chapter, and your book has one too in case you haven't found that page yet. Every one of these textbooks has a page 52, and every page 52 says the same thing that mine does. But just as a reminder, let me read it to you. It has been proved that by thinking correctly and by a conscious mental use of the law of mind, we can use it to do definite things for us, through us. By conscious thinking, we give conscious direction to it. And it, the thing itself, of course, it consciously or unconsciously responds to our advance along the line of our conscious direction. That's the line you must underline, highlight, put a marker, whatever you do, an exclamation point in the margin, responds to our advance along the line of our conscious direction, which means when we put our word into the universe, Spirit, God, whatever you call that source of being, does not edit it, does not put it on hold, does not file it and say, nah, he or she isn't quite ready for that yet, so I'm going to set that aside. It doesn't work that way. What you put out there, your conscious direction is, and I stress conscious, because until we become aware of our power, we're putting it out there subconsciously. There's another word for subconscious. It's unconscious. And when we are putting it out there unconsciously, what's coming back is not what we would like for it to be often. So really pay attention to that line. Going on, Holmes says, it must and will respond to everyone because it's law, universal law, spiritual law, and law is no respecter of persons. We're surrounded by an intelligent force and substance from which all things come. And he describes that as the ultimate essence in the invisible and subjective world of all visible and objective forms and conditions. It's around us in its original state, ready and willing to take form through the impulse of our creative belief. It works for us by flowing through us. What he just said there is that it's always here. It's not something you create in your mind as if it never had been created before. It just hasn't been demonstrated. So when you're able to formulate that in your mind, and you are clear on what your intention is as far as the outcome is concerned, it's already there. And we'll talk more about that when we get to processes. It works for us by flowing through us. This law we did not create, and this law we cannot change. We can use it correctly only as we understand and use it according to its nature. It's kind of like, try as you might, the chances of your changing lightning into gummy bears is highly unlikely. Lightning is part of a natural law. It will never be gummy bears. It may contact gummy bears, and they're more likely to become lightning than it is to become gummy bears. So we recognize that there are laws in the universe, whether they are natural, physical laws, or they are spiritual laws, that they are immutable. Holmes' words, immutable. It's something that works in our behalf, and when we pay attention, in our favor. So this is the this is the paragraph that changed my life. Hence it follows that if we believe it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. So what is he saying there? If you put positive thoughts, ideas, intentions into mind, that's what you experience. If you put negative, fear-based, lack, unhappiness into mind, guess what comes back? So another way of saying this as we get a little further into this study is, I am cause to my own belief. That what I put forth is what appears in my life, not because it's being crafted and sent my way by some vindictive spiritual God or energy, but because it's what I've put out there, it's what I've surrounded myself with, it's what's in my cells. So the idea there is to get that out of my cells and replace that with the positive, the life-affirming, the prosperous, the loving, the creative. You fill in the blanks. As long as it's no one else's at no one else's expense, you have incredible latitude to grow your life in ways that perhaps you never realized were possible until you tried it. 5 steps. 15 minutes in the morning. God is, I am, my intention is, I accept that for myself, and I release that into spiritual law. Of course, there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the starting place. That's the commitment. Let me see if I can find where I was on my talk. Oh, yes. So what I just read you are really the basics of the science of mind. Any form that is not of the original harmony is subject to change. Original spirit is harmony, beauty, and truth. Everything that goes with ultimate reality. So the universe is not divided against itself, and universal law must respond to our demands. So that's really important that we pay attention to how we craft those demands and what the expected outcome of those is. Because if it's to bring harm to someone else, that is not what we came here to do. So maybe that's what I need to talk about in March. Still working on the March theme. Yeah. So the only thing we can do is to control our own thought. If you think you can control anybody else's thought, get over it. Because if you can control somebody else's thought, then they can control yours. Oops. That was not what I expected. So that's a part of spiritual maturity, recognizing that. I may not agree with something someone else thinks, but I defend their right to think it, as long as it's at nobody else's expense. The easiest way for us to control our own thought is to unify our thoughts with what is already perfect and complete. And that is a universal harmony that is unfolding around us in every moment through to eternity. Sometimes we think that may not be the case. Think again. It's all in perfect right order. Discordant thought, though, is a seeming reality that borrows from illusion. The realization that we have this ability to think is gained by the application of our knowledge. So it's true that negative conditions may appear to exist, but they cannot remain without somebody to experience them. Ooh, think about that. Consequently, the experience must be in consciousness. It's like the end of the food chain kind of thing. That when we take that thought and we embrace it, then we activate it, then we have brought it into real time. If you don't like what you've brought into real time, think again. Because you can always think again and change that to the positive, life-affirming outcome that you prefer. Change it, and the false condition disappears. So our personal job then is to deal with the source of limitation. The source of limitation is an image. Deny it power. We do this by filling our thought with faith, expectancy of good, realization of plenty. We see right action. We expect right action. Holmes suggests that one deny anything and everything that contradicts his or her realization of this truth. If that sounds like work for you, it will be work. If that sounds like fun for you, it will be fun. If that sounds exciting and expansive, that's what it will be for you. The other thing that Holmes is very clear about is that truth is instantaneous in its demonstration. So let me refer to that opening treatment that I did this morning, which was an exact quote from Holmes' words on page 56. I know that you don't remember every word I spoke, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to repeat it, but it'll be on YouTube in 2 weeks, and you can go and listen to every word, or you can go to page 56 when you get home in your Science of Mind text and read it, and read it, and read it. Also, remember I said at the beginning of the talk that I would elaborate on what we mean by process. The only time it takes for truth to unfold is the time it takes us to become attuned to the truth of our being. There is no process of healing, but there is generally a process in healing. And that is the time and effort that we spend in our realization of the truth. Another way of saying that is, when you fully accept whatever you have put into mind as your intention, when you fully accept that, it shows up in real time. That's the demonstration. So there's no doubt that the power of our word in treatment is an intelligent energy in an invisible world. You don't see those words going out into the ethers. They do. Just like radio waves. They do. Where does the internet come from? It's that same kind of concept. We've learned to accept that when we push a certain button on our iPhone, our iPad, or our laptop, that the internet appears. Well, the same finger that pushes that button can push this button. The realization that I speak my word and it's made manifest. If it doesn't show up, it's because I haven't accepted it. It's there. Knowing that, I think, makes practicing this philosophy so easy. It's just so easy. Sometimes some of us have some things to let go of first in order to make room for it. And that's okay. Take the time. So the thing that I'm talking about has as much power as we have faith in it. It always produces results based upon our acceptance. So if I am doing treatment work for prosperity and my expectation is like this, that's what I experience. If it's like this, that's what I experience. And if my arms were longer, I'd stretch them out even further, because prosperity has no boundaries. It's what you call it and how you use it and how it serves you. This is what's called the law of cause and effect at work. As much as we believe is what comes out of our treatment work, our spiritual work. So here's an affirmation you might like to use, and this will be up on YouTube in a couple of weeks too, so you'll have that to refer to. My word has power, and I firmly believe in it. I trust it to produce the right results in my life. That affirmation is conscious recognition and receptivity. I recognize the power within me, and I accept that I am the utilizer of that. I am I'm the guard of that. I guard that for myself. I'm my own sentry in that regard. So be receptive to the purposes of the universe around you. Expect results. Be willing to release anything, everything that would hinder the demonstration once you put it out there into the universe. Another way of saying that is be not afraid once you speak your word. One of Holmes' most powerful quotes is this: the veil between spirit and matter is very thin. The invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. This truth belongs to all of us. So, in closing, I want to give you 3 references to give some consideration to, because this is Holmes speaking about 800 years ago about these principles. Many of you will recognize the name Joseph Campbell. Campbell is a renowned American mythologist who worked in not only comparative mythology, but also in comparative religion, and covered many, many aspects of the human experience. And he put it this way: what we know as the deity in any spiritual or philosophical teaching, that deity is the personification of energy. He not only was revered for his work in mythology, his was a lifelong study in the human expression of what he called the deity. As metaphysicians, we recognize that the name we give to universal energy is really unimportant. It doesn't care what you call it. It has no personality. So you're not going to insult it if you call it by seemingly a wrong name. It's what works for you. This is the truth that belongs to everybody. We speak different languages. We have different backgrounds. We approach spirituality from a variety of different origins, but they all center on one. And more recently, after Campbell, we have now the option to acknowledge the works of Greg Braden, who is internationally renowned for his innovative work in bridging science and spirituality. So I'm giving you these examples to see that it wasn't just 100 years ago. It wasn't just 50 years ago. It was about 8 years ago when Greg Braden came forth with a book called The Spontaneous Healing of Belief. And the tagline on this is Shattering the Paradigm of False Limits. It's an incredible book. He's also the one who wrote The Matrix and Fractal Time. If you think you are into science fiction, read Fractal Time, because it's the real thing and it reads like science fiction. So in his book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, he talks about shattering that paradigm of false limits through changing our perceptions, shifting our limited beliefs, and how to speak the quantum language of healing, peace, abundance, and change. Isn't that an interesting use of words? The quantum language of peace, healing, abundance, and change. Isn't that fascinating? That really excites me. That gets my cells moving. That what Holmes dubbed the thing itself, or first cause, spirit, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff. Sometimes he calls it the ultimate stuff. The intelligence from what everything comes, the power back of creation, all of these phrases that he used almost 100 years ago continues. It's showing up in comparative religions. It's showing up in the science of technology, because it's everywhere, equally present, all the time. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Now, if the first 4 chapters don't get you going, I don't know what